In today's video, we're going to be taking a listen to my favorite microphone for YouTube, the Rode VideoMic NTG, and comparing it to a microphone that costs about 8.5 times less, the Takstar SGC-600. And the question we're asking is the Takstar a viable option for YouTube videos?
In this corner, coming in at $299 US with a frequency range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz and a super cardioid pickup pattern. It has a dual high-pass filter at 75 Hz and 150 Hz, a 30-plus hour internal battery, auto-sensing 3.5mm and USB-C outputs, weighing in at 94 grams. We have the Rode VideoMic NTG. In this corner, coming in at $35 US with a frequency range of 50 Hz to 16 kHz and a super cardioid pickup pattern, it has a high-pass filter at 200 Hz, one AA battery for power and an on-off switch, weighing in at 75 grams. The underdog, the Takstar SGC-600.
Okay, that was a bit dramatic, but it's true, those are the stats. And by all accounts, the Rode VideoMic NTG beats the Takstar as far as specs go. So you'd think the Rode sounds 1,000 times better, right? Well, that's where things get a bit interesting. You see, the Rode gives you a flat response, and you might be wondering what that is. If you think about it like it's video, flat response is similar to a flat video profile, whereas the Takstar gives you more of a colored response, meaning that you kind of have a profile baked into your audio. So I want you to keep that in mind when we get to the audio tests. If you're an audiophile like I am, you probably want a mic that gives you a flat response so you can EQ and process the sound like you want it to sound. It's a lot harder to process a mic that already has a sound baked in. It is doable, but you probably don't want to bend the Takstar too much because it starts to introduce noise and audible aliasing. So let's go ahead and do that audio test, but I want to talk about the build quality of these mics while we're doing it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Rode VideoMic NTG while you're listening to the Takstar SGC-600. And honestly, the Rode VideoMic NTG is my favorite mic for YouTube because of the build quality. But I do want to be fair, I've never used its direct competitor, the Deity VMic D3. However, the Rode mic is built like a tank. I feel like I could run over it with a small car and it might have a scratch on it. The buttons feel really nice. They're not rubbery or anything. They feel like they'll last a long time. But one of my favorite features is the gain knob on the back, where it kind of just turns and it's fully adjustable. One thing that you get with this mic too is the mount that reduces micro vibrations so that when you're holding your camera or if you've got a boom operator holding it, you don't get that rubbing sound or any loud booms if it stops too briskly. The windscreen that comes with the mic is nice enough, but where you really start seeing a drastic difference in wind reduction is when you start pairing it with a dead cat. I should also mention that I'm miking this from underneath, so right now the Takstar SGC-600 is right here. I'm touching it with my finger. It is pretty close to me, so that is going to be a drastic difference in what you might hear from your videos if you don't have this mic'd close to you, and if you're not in a sound-treated room, it is going to sound way different than what mine sounds like. With that said, let's switch to the Rode VideoMic NTG. So this is the Takstar SGC-600. So what you're hearing right now is the Rode VideoMic NTG. The build quality of this is okay at best. It's made of plastic and feels like it might break if it takes a hard fall. The switches are on the back as opposed to being on the sides like on the SGC-598, which is nice, but where I have my issues with the SGC-600 is on the mount. This is not in any way a shock mount, and the lip here on this actually prevents you from getting a dead cat to fit on this. And if you know of a furry that does fit this, please let me know in the comments because I'd love to get one for myself and I'd love to be able to suggest it to other people. I should also note that the bottom screw down here is a 1/4 20 thread instead of the larger one that's on most microphones. And that could be better for a lot of creators. What that'll allow you to do is to mount this to a tripod or mount it to a monopod, and you could actually use that monopod as a boom pole if you wanted to. So it makes it really easy to do that with just this 1/4-20 thread. But for me, I had a hard time coming up with a rigging solution to put this up, which is why I mounted it below instead of on top. Right now, I've got the Rode VideoMic in the same spot that this was, but it's different than it was in the opening shot. I also have a problem with the 3.5mm output wire being attached here, because that means if this wire fails, then you're out a microphone. The good news is that it only costs $35 on Amazon right now, and that's really its saving grace. You heard the sound quality earlier, and that paired with the fact that it's only $35 US makes it cheap gear worth buying in my book. So who are these mics for? I'd say the Rode VideoMic is for the serious YouTuber and videographer if you plan on using it out and about. If you're just throwing this in your camera bag and you're going to different locations, you'll want something that's built for that kind of use. The Takstar, on the other hand, is a great mic if you're just getting into video creation. You can 100% make high-end videos with this mic, but I'd be very careful when transporting it, and maybe buy 2 of these so that if one breaks, like the wire right here, you'll have a backup. For a more detailed look at the Takstar SGC-600, you can click this video right here because I went into detail about what it does and gave you some real-world examples. And for a more detailed look at the Rode VideoMic NTG, you can click over here. I've made a couple videos about that one, so I'll link one of them in this box. If this video has been helpful, make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing for more videos like this one. Subscribing is free, so why not?